You pass those. Yeah, if you guys can pass the cardboard stock down so that. Very Oh, there we go.
Meant to get it that way. Mine was pretty good.
How are you?
I was thinking about the other day. I have a.
Now we just need this.
I'll try again.
Hold up for Glenn.
I'm gonna get, yep.
Hey.
Can you get one more?
Yeah.
Stock down?
That was probably all I have. There's, oh, never mind.
Okay, wow, that-
Good.
Get him in the.
Sorry. This is the entertainment portion of our meeting.
But you're.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, we're gonna start, everybody. Okay. Welcome to the July 24th Site Plan Review Committee SPRC subgroup meeting for the Walgreens project. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the Walgreens project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's event calendar, and the email notification sent to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it is appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve purposes for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who were planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. I will monitor the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name and group you are representing now, and I will verbally check in to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have the video feed option. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you'll be called on to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda item. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers this evening. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees, or provide staff with your name here in person, and you will be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. So we got through that. My name is Nia Bagley. My name is Nia Bagley, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, and I am chairing this SPRC. And I think what we should do is just go around the room and introduce yourself and who you are.
Howdy, Aaron Roberts. With Alan.
Jackie Snelling, Lion Village Citizens Association.
My name is Tony Strider. I'm with the Planning Commission.
JJ Montefiore, and landscape architect for the applicant.
Cassie Guy, the applicant with Rooney Properties.
Zach Williams, the land use attorney with Venable, representing the applicant.
Joe McIntyre, representing the Climate Change, Energy, and Environment. Peter Robertson, anonymous member of the Planning Commission.
Finley Peterson, Planning Commission.
Mike Flores, Transportation Commission.
Bob Benson, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Mark Koblenz, Maywood Community Association.
Joanne Thornton, Maywood Community Association.
Andrew Ferrer, the Tenant Landlord Commission. Do you mind telling me, Planning Commission? And I want to note that I'm also president of the Langston Boulevard Alliance, but tonight I'm here solely as Planning Commissioner, and any opinions I have will be solely my own and not necessarily those of the Langston Boulevard Alliance.
Matt Pfeiffer, Community Department of Community Planning, Housing and Development.
Anybody else who should be at the table? Okay. Can I just get a clarification on the Maywood Civic Association? Only one is at the table, so who?
Mark.
Mark. Okay.
So I shall
Yeah, if
retreat.
Yeah, just sort of retreat to this side.
Okay.
Should we introduce people around? Should we introduce people around the room?
Yeah.
Yes. So going back this way, we can start with you and we'll go down. Okay. Hopefully with Bill Johnson.
Beverly Thatcher's interested community member. I live in Lime Village.
Good for you.
Adriana Torres, also interested.
Wonderful.
Elaine Parlow on the Langston Boulevard Alliance.
Excellent.
Jennifer Underwriter, community member.
Right, James Schroll, Langston Boulevard Alliance.
Brown, Langston Boulevard Alliance.
Jay Last,
Got me already. I'm Joanne Thornton from Maywood.
Walter Gonzalez, Department of Parks.
Bill Gerhart from Liability.
Also from Lion. Bryce Johnson, Department of Environmental.
Andy Chess from Waverly Hills. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jill Barker with Park and Rec.
Thank you. All right.
We just added some.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We just added Bob Braddock.
Oh, okay. And you would like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bob Braddock from Lion Village.
Awesome. Well,
You want to introduce the people online, introduce themselves?
oh, yes. The folks online who are, we're just the members, right? Not everything.
Yeah, ask them if you're.
Yes, if you are a member of the SPRC, if you could identify yourself online. Do we have any commissioners online? Do we know? Are there any commissioners? No, on the
Yeah,
SPRC.
I don't know.
We have 2 design team members online. If they could introduce themselves, that'd be
That's
great.
fine. Okay. And so we don't have any other SPRC members online, correct?
That's my
If
knowledge.
not, raise your hand. Make sure. Okay. Excellent. So before we get started, I just a couple comments. First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful turnout. This is what this engagement process is about. I also want to give a little talk about, we all live in a very stressful time, in a very stressful environment. And we come together tonight to respect one another's opinions. And I just want to remind everybody that this will be a civil conversation. At any time that I see that it's kind of going off the rails, I will give an adult timeout. Please don't ask me to do that, but I will. So I know that we'll come out of here with, we get a chance to hear about a potential project at a site right now that doesn't look so good in our neighborhood. So, and this is our opportunity to weigh in, hopefully make it better. So looking forward to hearing everybody's comments. During the staff presentation and the applicant presentation, please do not interrupt and ask questions. We will have that time afterwards to ask clarifying questions. So, Mr. Pfeiffer, would you like to take it away? There will be public comment. As I said during the intro comments, there will be public comment afterwards. If you want to public comment, there is a list here in the room for those of you live. If you are online, please just put that in the public, in the chat. And do we have anybody that just joined that list?
So it looks like my presentation here is not syncing with what folks are seeing. So I'm a little concerned, or maybe there's a time lag.
This is what this is going to look like, and then we'll do this.
Yeah, right.
Seeing it
Welcome
now, Matt.
everyone. While I get this set up, I'll just reiterate what Nia said. So we are going to have public comment at the end of this meeting. So if you are sitting around the table and you want to do public comment, there's a sign up sheet over there. If you're joining us online, I will make an announcement by putting something in the chat saying, please give me your name. I will add you to the list of public comments, and then we'll have time at the end of the meeting for that. So yeah, let me see. So it looks like it's now synced back up, hopefully. So if not, somebody please type something in the chat letting me know it's not synced. But all right. So we have a good agenda for you tonight. My name is Matt Pfeiffer. I'm with the Department of Community Planning, Housing, and Development, current planning team. I typically don't do SPRCs, but we've got a very high volume at the moment. So I'm back in the saddle doing them. So it's nice to be back with everyone. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a staff presentation for about 10 minutes or so. I'm going to cover a number of topics, including the background, a little bit of background information about the site plan process. Then we're going to talk about policy guidance and major comments related to the discussion topics. Then we're going to hear from the applicant for about 10 minutes. They're going to go through their development program and give a presentation on our discussion topics. And so those topics today, we'll have a little bit of time, as Nia mentioned, for clarifying questions. But we're going to talk about use mix and density, site design and layout, building height, form, and architecture, the public plaza, landscaping and tree canopy, and biophilic design. So I still see, it doesn't look like this is advancing. I hope that it is.
Sharing the wrong screen. Teams is finicky.
Teams is extremely finicky. So let's.
Now it is. Now it is, Matt.
Maybe I just can't make it a slide presentation, which is unfortunate.
You can't really see whichever unique screen, the share button is there.
Yeah, it's actually. Something's great. Through that. I think part of the problem could be that it's forcing me to do a web-based version of Teams, but let's try this again. Let's do the entire screen. See if that works.
You'll have to click, I think, the entire screen.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Try this again. All right. So we talked about the agenda. Yeah, this seems to be working. So we talked about the agenda. So I did want to tell you guys what we've been doing for the last 6 months. So, you know, the last time we met, I think we had an online engagement in late January, and then we had a walking tour in mid-February. And so I think that was the last time I've seen a lot of you folks related to this project anyway. So we're now having this meeting in July. So what have we been doing since February? So since February, we have gotten 2 planned resubmissions, planned resubmission and a slip sheet from the applicant related to addressing comments that staff has left the applicant related to stormwater management and overland relief. And so in that intervening period, our DES stormwater staff has been reviewing that, and we are continuing to review for that issue based on some information that the applicant gave us. And right now what we're working on is we're trying to ensure that the data that we have is being incorporated correctly into the modeling. And so we're not quite there yet. We're still reviewing it. And so today we're not going to be talking about stormwater management or overland relief. We'll be talking about a variety of other topics in the meantime so that we get started and we can start, you know, reviewing this project, but we're not quite there with that. But I did want to let you know that we are still reviewing for that issue, and that, you know, when we come out the other side of it, it may or may not result in changes to the building siting, setbacks along Kirkwood, or, you know, site grading or other aspects. So we just don't know at this point, but by the time we come back to SPRC, we should have some more definite answers there. But some other changes that we can talk about that the applicant has made at this point. They've shifted the building north on Kirkwood about 12 feet to provide overland relief. They've removed the maisonette units as a result of that shift in the building. And they have provided a second pickup drop-off lay-by area along Kirkwood Road. They have now included trees along the eastern property line with a pawn shop in response to staff comments. They've removed the dog run on the western side of the site and are now providing a path that links Langston Boulevard to the proposed plaza. So with that out of the way, I did also want to take the opportunity to let some folks know about SPRC. I think, this is Langston Boulevard. We have a community here that is not used to participating in SPRC. There are not a lot of site plans along Langston Boulevard. This, I think, is the first out of the gate. So this is the first SPRC we're having along Langston Boulevard, first of many. We've got quite a few projects in the queue. So this is in some ways the guinea pig, but I did want to give some folks some background on SPRC. So this graphic up here just is sort of trying to help you visualize where we are in the planning process. So the Langston Boulevard area plan was, of course, policy formation. So what that did was it developed and adopted policy guidance on topics like land use, zoning, building height, building design and architecture, open space, transportation, and a variety of other topics. And so that is now adopted plan guidance. And so now we are in the special exception site plan phase, which is implementation of that plan guidance. And so what the purpose, what we're doing in plan implementation is we are reviewing, a fully engineered plan for redeveloping a site. And we're identifying ways in which it conforms to the guidance and ways in which it may deviate from the guidance and other applicable zoning, building code, other things of that nature. And so we're looking at, part of the job of SPRC is to discuss, are those deviations appropriate or not? Are they justified or not? And same thing with zoning modifications that may be needed. Do they make sense? Are they consistent with policy or are they not? And then finally, just again, orienting you as to where we are, after site plan approval, which again implements that policy, then they go into administration. And so zoning office and special services division will administer things like land development permits, building permits, and certificates of occupancy. So a little bit on, if you are joining us online, please mute yourself. Thank you. So a little bit again about SPRC. So this is what we're reviewing. We are reviewing for the appropriateness of any deviations or modifications to zoning. And we're also hearing from stakeholders about any other impacts or concerns that they may have and trying to come up with any particular site-specific mitigation strategies. One really important component of SPRC is that there's no vote taken with SPRC, and consensus is not required. So what we have here is a proposal from the applicant. The applicant can hear our feedback. They are not required to take our feedback. So with that all out of the way, I will breeze through these next couple of slides pretty quickly because I think most of you are oriented to the site, but just in case you're not, the site is off 3130 Langston Boulevard. It's currently occupied by a Walgreens building. It is nearly at the intersection of Langston and Kirkwood Road. It has frontage on both sides and is east of the I-66 right of way. In terms of the neighborhoods, it is within Lyon Village, but abuts North Highlands, Maywood, and Cherrydale. So some of the existing conditions here, you can see an aerial. You can see the Walgreens building. This is the pawn shop building, of which we will be hearing of a lot. And here's a street view from the north. Here are a couple of other street views. Again, there's the pawn shop building and some of the surface parking that exists at the site. So the applications that we're reviewing, we have a general land use plan amendment. They're requesting to amend the site's designation from half public and half service commercial to medium office apartment hotel. They're requesting to rezone the site from C2 service commercial to CO 2.5. And then they're requesting a new site plan. I have a typo here. It's a new site plan to construct. It's actually, I think, 310 units, not 296 units, and with associated ground floor retail. So yeah, here are the statistics here, which are actually updated. So it is a total of 310 units. And we've split, from our density calculation, we've split the site into a residential site area and commercial site area. So in terms of the residential site area, they have about, under the CO 2.5 zoning, they have about 185 units base density. They're requesting 125 additional units. In terms of commercial density, they are meeting the 2.5. And that comes out to about 8,260 square feet of retail GFA. So the building height is 136 feet. Their penthouse height is 141 feet. Penthouse roofs, as they are mechanical, do not count as building height, but we're giving you the statistic anyway. They're proposing 1.05 spaces per unit for their residential parking ratio, and about 1 space per 243 square feet for their retail parking ratio. They are, I have another typo here, and I apologize for that. They are asking for modifications for additional density exclusions, and loading spaces. I believe you guys no longer need a compact parking percentage modification. So that is a change. So on the discussion topics, so I'm going to go over a little bit of guidance from the Langston Boulevard area plan, and then talk about what some of the outstanding staff comments may be. And also, I also am going to mention some of the feedback that we heard in the online engagement. So the Langston Boulevard area plan identifies this area as a mixed-use hub. So an area where we are expecting new high-density development. Some of the major land use goal from Langston Boulevard area plan is to transform Langston Boulevard into a vibrant, green, multimodal Main Street corridor through expanded land use and density that will support new households, shops, jobs, opportunities. So the Langston Boulevard area plan identifies this site as a recommended change to the GLUP to medium office apartment hotel, which is consistent with what the applicant has applied for. And as we know, CO 2.5 is the zoning district that implements that designation. So the proposed GLUP designation and rezoning is consistent with the Langston Boulevard. In terms of specific land use, the site is recommended for mixed use with a retail frontage along Langston. And then we can see, from this graphic, this is approximately the area where the applicant is proposing retail/retail equivalent. And so they are in general conformance with the land use recommendations of the plan. I did want to pause there and talk about some online engagement feedback that we received. SPRC members generally expressed some disappointment with the lack of consolidation with the pawn shop site. They did support ground floor retail, general support for the proposed density. Community member feedback was much more mixed. There was probably about half and half concern about the density and associated impacts. But there was also about another half of the community members that thought this was a good location for high density residential. In terms of the use mix, some thought that there should be more retail, and some thought that retail is not needed here. And I think probably almost everybody thought that residential was an appropriate land use here. So site design and layout, you can see this snippet here is from the concept plan map for Area 5 West. And you can see sort of the general contemplated layout of the site here. A note about illustrative layout drawings and sector plans generally. They are one iteration of the possible build out of the site. They are not prescriptive. And other recommendations or guidelines in the plan are generally more, prescriptive of what we're looking for in terms of guidance. So, but as you can see, we'll look at this on the next graphic. This is generally what the applicant is proposing. In terms of some other layout features, I will say that, their consolidation with the pawn shop site was contemplated here. Obviously, that wasn't able to occur. We do have a recommendation. You can see bullet B right here for a plaza/park on the southern side of the site. There's also a recommendation for a 50-foot greenway along the Kirkwood Drive frontage for overland relief, which we will talk much more about at the next meeting. There's a build to line along Langston Boulevard, which, as you can see from the recommended cross section, is about 29 feet. And then there are recommendations for consolidated access points. So this is what the applicant is proposing, again, generally in line with the planned contemplated build out of the site, with the exception that they were not able to consolidate the pawn shop site. Loading and parking access are off of Kirkwood, which is consistent with plan guidance for these services to be located not on Langston. They do have the park on the southern side of the site. And the main building entrance, pedestrian entrance, is off of Langston. So again, going back to some online engagement feedback, SPRC members thought they had general satisfaction with the proposed site layout. Although we did hear from folks that they thought that the building lobby should be on North Kirkwood Street, or generally not at this corner. There was some concern expressed about the high lot coverage. Community members felt that the site design was also generally appropriate, although they felt that, I think most people felt that the plaza was too small. They also thought that there should be wider setbacks on Kirkwood, and also on the western side of the site abutting I-66. And some of the folks were appreciative of the pathway along the western side of the building. There is one staff comment that I wanted to raise. This is somewhat related to open space, but it's also related to site design, so I decided to put it up here. One of the changes I mentioned was, so the applicant is no longer proposing the dog run in this area, and instead they have provided a pathway along the side of the site that does connect Langston Boulevard to the plaza. So this consists of about a 5-foot sidewalk and a 5-foot planting strip. We have some comments that are outstanding that we're working with the developer on, just related to how comfortable and accessible this pathway will be. We are appreciative of the plantings, and that does get contribute to their tree canopy targets. Some of these, we're also somewhat concerned that these trees could serve to block off this pathway, and also concerned about, some of the access. There's a door access here, and just what that does to kind of the ability of people to get through there. Understanding that it's unlikely that the building would be able to shift anymore. What can we do with the space that we have? Also, is there ability to, provide some more wayfinding or other visual or design cues to let people know that, hey, there is a pathway here that can get you through the block. So that's an outstanding comment that we have. The next topic is building height. So building height, I've clipped here the building height map and form map. As you can see, this site is within the 12-story zone. The Langston Boulevard identifies 12 stories as being, Langston Boulevard area plan, identifies 12 stories as being up to a maximum of 136 feet. The building height guidance in the plan is somewhat nuanced in terms of it provides both a maximum number of stories as well as a maximum number of feet, and those two guidelines are supposed to work together. And I think there is some degree of acknowledgement that there's some flexibility built in for accommodating the desired mix of uses as well as specific site conditions. Since it's on the slide, I'll mention this now. So just again, some of the feedback that we received at the online engagement, and this is related to what I'll talk about in the next slide. The SPRC members largely felt that the building height proposed is generally appropriate, although again, as I'll get into in the next slide, there was a mezzanine level that they felt should be counted as an extra story. The community members was much more mixed. Some felt that the height was appropriate given the location. Others felt that it was not appropriate and should be reduced to 7 stories and or does not fit the neighborhood. And again, we heard that folks didn't want the mezzanine level to be counted, or thought the mezzanine level counted as a story. So let's get into that issue. So the applicant is proposing this level, and it didn't come out well in this graphic, but I had it highlighted in green. But if you can see generally where my cursor is, this is where the mezzanine level is. This is a parking level. And you can see from this graphic, pink, this is where the retail space has a double height ceiling. And so this level, it does not technically meet all edges of the building, and so is only a partial level. However, it does cover the majority of the area within the 4 walls. Unfortunately, our zoning ordinance does not define mezzanine or what a mezzanine is, so it's somewhat subject to interpretation. Generally, in other places, we've kind of applied is it 2/3 of the floor standard? But that's not codified anywhere in the zoning ordinance. That's just kind of, what we've done in practice. And that really, I think, has been applied in Clarendon, where it's much more related to the density and how density is calculated. If we did count this as a story, which I'm not saying we are, but if we were to, this would make this a 13-story building. As I mentioned earlier, the Langston Boulevard Area Plan height guidance recommends both the total maximum number of feet as well as stories, and so those two things are supposed to work together. I will say that they are meeting the 136-foot standard, so they are in conformance with the plan guidance on the absolute number of feet in terms of height. And I will also mention that if the applicant were to remove this story, this mezzanine level completely, it would result in the loss of parking. So some building form guidance. Again, I've clipped here form guidance on step backs from the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. Key to this site, and I've highlighted this, really the Langston Boulevard Area Plan is looking at, it identifies this area as a higher scale development site than some others where there's much narrower right of way. So because Langston Boulevard is so wide on this site, it's not looking for some of the more generous step backs that we're looking for in other sites, but it does mention that above the podium, there should be a 10-foot step back along Langston Boulevard. Along Kirkwood Road, they're looking for, the plan is looking for a 35-foot step back above the base. So the applicant is providing a 2-foot step back above the base here. Given the width, I think the intent of having those step backs is to ensure that there is adequate light and air access at the ground level. I think given the width of Langston Boulevard, it's not really a concern of staff at this juncture. However, I think we do want to see are there other solutions in terms of architectural design, materials, or other sculpting elements that could be introduced to get closer to the spirit of having this facade sculpt a little bit more from Langston Boulevard. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk about what we heard from the online engagement. I think what the majority comment we heard from SPRC members is just a little bit more information as to what the applicant is proposing in this regard. From community members, we heard that the majority felt that the applicant should meet the required step backs and that the building is too bulky. We heard probably more of a minority of people who thought the step backs are fine, and some people thought that they're not needed at all. Okay, architecture. So again, I've clipped some guidance here from the area plan. This has kind of some less specific but more, general guidance on good architectural design. I am going to go to skip forward to an outstanding staff comment that we have. So, the applicant, as a result of shifting their building 12 feet back, did have to remove those masonette units. And so, we don't have those anymore along the Corkwood Road frontage. That was one aspect of the plan that was received very positively. I think everybody liked the architecture a lot along that frontage. So what we have now is, unfortunately, the parking garage due to site constraints that is all along the Kirkwood frontage. So we just have some comments here. There's a high number of louvers. Again, what additional design elements or screening could be introduced to improve this facade, make it look a little bit more inviting, a little bit less like a parking garage. When we go back and talk about online engagement, there wasn't much specific commentary from SPRC members on architectural design. Community members expressed skepticism about some of the more modern elements as well as the Art Deco elements of the design. There was some concern about the parking garage facade, and again, a typo, sorry. Back then, the parking garage was facing on the eastern lot line against the pawn shop. Now it is facing Kirkwood Road. A minority thought that the architectural design was fine and that no changes were needed. Now onto the public plaza. Again, I've clipped some of the privately owned public space guidance here. So in just broadly speaking, the area plan identifies this public space as a plaza park hybrid, which includes a combination of both plaza and park elements in it and amenities. And so it's looking for, more active use kind of plaza elements with a good degree of hardscaping, of which there could be pervious elements incorporated, as well as more park-like areas with, native plantings of that nature. So we do have an outstanding comment on this one as well. And I think the biggest part is that, while they are providing both the sort of the more active hardscaped element and the more park-like atmosphere, these two areas are very disconnected seeming. And so we would like for these areas to be integrated, I think, in a more cohesive way. And especially, just the way this is disconnected, this feels like a more privatized space. And we just want this area to be, again, more integrated into the park area and to feel a little bit more public. Going back, SPRC members is sort of a moot point now, but felt that it was mixed. Some people liked the dog run, some people didn't. Community members, expressed concern about the location of the plaza in terms of access, visibility, and things of that nature. I think some people thought that maybe the plaza should be on Langston Boulevard. We also heard that the plaza should be larger in size. So the last topic I will talk about is some landscaping and biophilic design guidance. Again, you can see it on the slide. Some of the pertinent points, pertinent pieces of guidance are to achieve at least a 35% tree canopy target across the site and specific to the site. Also, we have guidance for 25% of the buildable area to be private open areas. And sorry about that. Just a little bit of background information about these two guidelines in terms of the tree canopy. So this guideline and this target is not related to the separate Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance target, which is different and is calculated in a different way. So what we're really talking about here is a separate guideline from the Langston Boulevard area plan related to tree canopy. And for this target, we do count trees that are maybe not on the applicant's property, but on their frontage. Also trees that are on elevated plazas. So those can count towards this tree canopy, according to the Langston Boulevard area plan, whereas they couldn't count if we were doing it by the Chesapeake Bay ordinance. In terms of private open areas, same thing. We can count areas that are on terrace levels and other, the streetscape essentially. So in terms of conformance, they are meeting the 25% private open area between their, courtyard along this area and the public space. And they are meeting that 35% tree canopy target. So that concludes my presentation. We have kind of a last slide here. Sorry, this isn't such small font, but these are showing you some of the topics we're going to be talking about at the next meeting, which is unscheduled as of now. And those include such things as transportation, stormwater management, sustainable design, and community benefits. So save your questions on those until the next meeting. So I will stop here and turn it over to the applicant.
Great, thank you, Matt. Are you going to bring up the presentation on yours, or should I?
If you could share your screen, I will stop sharing.
I will try that. There was a lag at Planning Commission a week or two ago, but
Yeah, I mean, if need be, I can pull this up.
it's happening the other day. So.
Yeah, let me see if I can get to. There we go. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Last time. No. All right. I think that worked.
Great. As I mentioned, my name is Zach Williams. I'm a land use attorney with Venable representing Rooney Properties, the applicant. To get us started, I'm going to turn it over to Cassie Guy, who's going to introduce Rooney and the project.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassie. I'm here representing Rooney Properties. We are a small, local, family-owned and operated developer. Our offices are actually at the intersection of Kirkwood and Washington Boulevard. So we're not just a neighbor to the greater Arlington, but we are a neighbor to this site in particular. Rooney is a family company and a long-term holder. We are not a merchant builder. We are excited to be a member of this community today and for many, many years to come. I also just want to say thank you. I very much appreciate the time and energy that has gone into this project so far. Zach started with, what have we been doing for the last 6 months? We've been working hard. And I appreciate not just my team, but staff, other county members, and the community. So thank you all very much. I look forward to continuing the conversation tonight.
Great. So on our first slide, you can see our applicant team. I think you got a little ahead of me, but that's okay. Sorry. And we're all here tonight to answer questions that folks might have, except for VICA. The VICA folks will be at the next SPRC meeting where we anticipate further discussions on stormwater and other engineering topics that they will play front and center on. Let's go to the next slide, Matt.
I just want to mention that Steve and Andrea are
That's a good point. Two of our members who will be presenting tonight, Steve Staff with DCS and Andrea Crossett with Land Design, are participating online. So they're on right now. I just want to make sure that was clear. So Matt did a great job with the project overview and presentation. As he mentioned, the project in its current form is proposing a new residential apartment building with 310 residential units and 360 parking spaces. The building will have a variety of unit sizes and layouts across 12 stories. And overall, the project will implement the recommendations and standards of the Langston Boulevard area plan. We'll have about a little over 8,000 square feet of street level retail or retail equivalent uses. You saw the presentation from Matt, including the public Plaza Park hybrid that will be accessible from Kirkwood Road. That is a feature shown in the plan on this site, and we will be providing that as called for. The L-shaped tower design actually more or less follows that illustrative in the plan. And we felt that was just the best way to orient the density in this on this particular site, closer to 66, further from the Lion Village community. You'll also see some renderings and some design details about the elevated courtyard, which you heard a little bit about, and the amenities that will be placed above a 3-story podium. Let's go to the next slide. So as Matt mentioned, there are 3 applications associated with this project: the site plan, the rezoning, and the GLUP amendment. Those are essentially called out for and prescribed in the Langston Boulevard area plan. We're essentially following the guidance in the plan with respect to the rezoning and the GLUP amendment. And obviously, we have to do a 4.1 site plan for this project as well. Next slide, please. So before we get into the architectural and design for the project, I did want to touch on, it's not just the last 6 months, it's actually about a year that we've been at this. We filed last August. And so we're having our first SPRC here almost a year later, but there's been a lot of work and something that we've been focused to really put a lot of attention and time into is our community engagement. This is the first project on Langston Boulevard. A lot of folks are very interested in this project and want to be participating in this process. And so we've made sure to give folks that venue. As staff mentioned, we are bordering not 1, but 4 civic associations, and we've made sure to meet with all 4 of them multiple times, and we'll continue to do that. We've also collaborated with the Langston Boulevard Alliance. We've met with them several times, and we'll continue to be closely tracking this project with them as well. Next slide, please. So let's go to the next one. One more. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because Matt did a pretty good job touching on this. I think everyone knows where the project is at this point. We already talked about the plan. Next slide. We talked a little bit about the greenway that's shown along Kirkwood Road, which we're providing now with the new location of the building. We talked about height. Next slide, please. This one also shows that Plaza Park hybrid I mentioned. I think this one, I don't know if I saw this one in your presentation, Matt. I called this one out because the intersection of Langston Boulevard and Spout Run is due for a future intersection transportation analysis and study, which will be coming. We know it's an intersection that causes a lot of concern. We know that the county is planning to study it. We're well aware of that. We're all waiting for that to happen. I didn't want to be remiss not to mention it. It's top of our mind as well. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Saff with Davis Carter Scott to walk through the architecture project. Steve, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Okay. Good evening. I'm Steve Saff with Davis Carter Scott. I'm going to go through the slides quickly on the perspectives and plans, and then Andrea Crossett will go over the ground plane, the elevated courtyard, and the roof deck and anything related to landscape. The key plan is at the very bottom right-hand corner, when the red arrow gives you the orientation of the view. So starting with this view, this is looking at the northeast corner of the building. That is also the major entrance into the retail. There will be potentially multiple entrances to retail spaces, depending on how it is broken up. Again, as was brought up earlier in the presentation, is all along Langston Boulevard. You have a 20-foot high retail and amenity and lobby space to activate the street and enrich the pedestrian experience. Next slide, please. This is looking from North Kirkwood, looking north, and you're looking at the secondary lobby, which is called a secondary lobby, but I think will be as important as the northern lobby at the northwest corner. It will be used equally as much, if not more so. So the north lobby would be more of a formal lobby, and this will be more of a passive and actively used lobby to get out to the adjoining area. Next slide, please. This is looking west from North Kirkwood and the pawn shop site. You can see the elevated courtyard where all the green is on the 3rd floor there. Next slide, please. And this is looking from the north east corner, looking across the pawn shop and the 3130 Langston project. Next slide, please. This is just kind of moving a little bit further around. You can see the I-66 overpass in the background. Next slide, please. And this is just an overview from way up high over I-66, looking to the southeast. And you see that there is just areas that are placeholders for signage on the building. So this is not the final locations, but just potential locations for signage for the building. Next slide, please. Just moving a little bit more around, looking a little bit more to the south from the north. And the architecture with the strong verticals at that corner and the difference in treatment fortifies, strengthens the lobby entrance. The lobby entrance, I know, has been a point of contention where it is, but given the geometry of the site and the fact that the elevators really need to go in that area, and we gave importance to the retail over on the northeast corner, ended up being how that lobby location ended up being. So we did a lot of studies to look at different locations for the lobby, but we do have 2 lobbies on this project. Next slide, please. This is looking from I-66 as you're heading into DC on the inbound lane. Next slide, please. And this is just up high over, looking from south to north over the whole site. Next slide. It's a little fuzzy. There you go. This is the this is looking to the northwest, and this is the North Kirkwood elevation. We took the base of the building and a lot of the language, a lot of the detailing that we use on the front of the building along Langston Boulevard, but in this area, we, instead of glazing, we use decorative screening here, and we tried to break up the massing with different materials and keep the scale of the garage facade as low as possible and enrich it again with a lot of different masonry and precast and other materials to try and keep the facade as rich as possible. Next slide, please. And this is looking at the northeast corner of the building along Langston Boulevard. That's just a view into the major retail entrance at the east corner of the building. Next slide, please. And this is looking from underneath the I-66 overpass, looking east along Langston Boulevard. Next slide, please. And this is just a little bit closer. You have the park up at the front. This is, again, the secondary lobby along North Kirkwood. And you see the garage and loading dock area. We did extensive studies looking at how we could separate the two. We looked at a lot of different configurations here, but given the grade of the site, the parking layout, and the fact that there's never a good location for loading docks and garage entrances, this is our best foot forward of where those entrances into the garage ended up being. And one of the changes that we also were able to do is make a larger lobby and activate that park at the south corner of the building. Next image, please. And this is just looking kind of at the elevated courtyard, which again, Andrew will talk about, along with all the other biophilia study design and landscape work. Next image, please.
Yeah, and if we could kind of get through this a little bit.
Faster? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. This is just the main lobby entrance along North Kirkwood. Next image, please. And really quickly, this is below grade parking. Next. The ground level, the orange is the residential amenities and lobby areas, and the yellow represents the retail equivalent spaces, and then the blue is the parking. Next slide. The next level, parking above. Next. One more level. Next slide, please. And then we get to the elevated courtyard and residential and amenities at this level. Next slide. Typical floor plan. And then the last slide should be the top floor with the deck and amenities area at the very east corner of the site of the building. And the building is pulled back about 25 feet at that corner, stepping the building back. This is an important section just to kind of give you an idea of the sections through the site. You have the A running from east to west. So you look at section AA, and at the bottom, number 1 gives you the cross section through the site, the building and adjacent buildings. And section BB runs somewhat north-south, and that goes through the shopping center on the north side of Langston Boulevard, and then the residence on the hill to the south. I'll be happy to, after we're over, to answer any other questions, architecture related. Andrea?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I'm Andrea Crossett. I am with Land Design. I'm going to be presenting JJ Montefiore, who's sitting beside Cassie. He'll be there to answer questions, as I will have to hop off after the presentation. To go quick, and as Zach said, Matt, you did such a great job kind of running through. I will continue to go as quick as possible. I just want to mention, you can see here, just looking at the plan, the 35% is something that we strive hard to meet. It is a really tough requirement. It is hard, and we really work with staff, and I want to give it kind of a shout out to our staff members helping us meet that, because we do have to work with them hand in hand. Another thing, the biophilia, we have 6 design principles that we work through here. It's green envelope, nature-inspired forms and shapes, so making sure everything isn't too rigid, light, organic patterns and processes, human relationships to nature, and sensory experiences. So if I run through just quickly, just kind of in a counterclockwise, starting at Langston at the north, Just to quickly go through what we're doing here on the streetscape, we have just a 3.5-foot green zone, then we have a 5.5-foot bike zone. You have the 6-foot tree zone. You see the trees along there, a nice 9-foot sidewalk, and then the 5-foot building zone. And as you go along, kind of along the pawn shop side there, we're trying to work through making sure we get enough green space along that side. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later. Wish that we could kind of work with the pawn shop. Unfortunately, at the current, they're staying. As you come along to the southern side along Kirkwood, that's where we did pull the building back, as Matt said, trying to get as many trees and green spaces along there for that overland relief. We have outside of our property line there, an 8-foot tree zone, a nice 6-foot sidewalk, and then more of that landscape and building zone. As you come along to the kind of the western, southern side there, that Plaza Park hybrid, as Matt said, we're working with staff. It's pretty prescribed in the Langston Boulevard area plan. It has to be 5,000 square feet. It's that privately owned public space. And it's intended to be, casual spaces to provide areas for relaxation, people watching, picnicking, reading books, social interaction. It has a bunch of items that you have to be able to provide. So we're going to work with them to make sure that we're meeting all of these things, but it has to be both a plaza and a park at the same time. So you have to meet all these requirements. We're working with them, and you'll see that space a little more in detail here in a few minutes. And again, as you come back along to meet on that western side there, where the dog run used to be, there's a sidewalk, and we have to get some street trees back there in order to meet that requirement. And we're going to be working again, as Matt said, with staff to make sure that we have some landscape and also some areas where you have, the door swings and things like that. We can do the next slide, Matt. Okay, I'm going to go through these quickly. And again, I guess not starting counterclockwise, but the other side. So this is the Plaza Park hybrid space. We'll just keep running through. And this is that corner. This is the slide that you saw with Steve. That's the top corner there. You can see the 66 there in the background along Langston Boulevard. The next slide. That's another, as you continue down Langston Boulevard, that's the nice 9-foot sidewalk. As you continue down, you can see the 66 overpass in the foreground there. Right. This was the slide that you saw that Matt showed. And again, it's shown pretty lush. These are illustrative purposes only, but we're going to be working with staff in this. But we do think it is nice to have that connection between Langston Boulevard and down to that Plaza Park hybrid space. Next slide. Coming back into that plaza space. And I just want to, again, state that we have to make sure that there's a plaza space that, they want to make sure that you have some area for, if you want to have, I don't know, more plaza type. It can't just be a sidewalk. It has to be more of a 50-50 space. So you have to have a wide enough space for seating and gathering, and you can see the overlay string lights above to make it feel like an actual plaza space. Next slide. This is that's that Kirkwood side with the overland relief. Pulling the building back did give us that opportunity to get some more streetscape, more landscaping there, the double row of trees along the Kirkwood road. Next slide. This is another view just further down the road, just shows some, the sidewalks, some benches, and again, just giving that really lush landscape in the overland relief. Next slide. Same view, just the other side. Next slide. And one thing, this is up on that 3rd floor podium that Steve mentioned. Up here, And you mentioned this too, Matt, where we're able to provide some trees up here. It's on the 3rd floor. Some of the things that we're including up on this podium, we have the pool, obviously, we have some gaming tables, we have grill stations, a nice pergola, a shady deck area, fire features, multi-purpose lawn. We're just trying to make sure that it's activated enough, but it's also, you know, the trees and the pergola provide some shade and some privacy. Next slide. And that's another view of the pool and those pergolas. Next slide. And this is the 12th floor terrace. I think that was one of the last slides that Steve showed. It's kind of just, this is a private space again, similar to the 3rd floor. It's going to be on the 12th floor up very tippy top. And it's very small, but I think it's going to be a nice intimate space for the residents. Next slide. That's it for landscape. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Before we start into the clarifying questions, I just want to clarify, especially for our civic and citizen associations that are joining us this evening, who've not done this process that much. Since you are at the table, you are allowed to be part of this discussion. So, you know, as we do the discussion, you kind of raise your hand and we'll go around. I'll try to be as good about making sure that everybody can speak as possible. So clarifying questions means not to discuss the topic, but if you have a question about something that was mentioned either by staff or the applicant, now would be the time to ask it, and then we'll go into the discussion.
It is very hard to know which set of parameters from Langston Boulevard around setbacks and setbacks apply to the site. Is there a view that it's really
So this is really the paragraph that talks about it. Really it mentions specifically above 7 stories, but 7 stories is what it's really talking about is the base structure. So the base of the building. So it's looking for a 10-foot step back along Langston above the base and a 35-foot step back along Kirkwood above the base.
So are they meeting?
They are meeting it on Kirkwood. They are not meeting it on Langston.
Bye.
I will show you. So they're providing a 2-foot step back along Langston
Instead of 10.
instead of 10.
Can you describe what that setback is?
Yeah, we'll get to you. If you would like to make public comment or follow up with questions, sign that.
I did.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Just keep those and we'll get answers.
You mentioned earlier that the 35% tree canopy can count trees along the frontage, but does that mean the trees between the site and I-66 are counted or not? The VDOT trees?
No, because those are not, they've not planted those trees.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Those are existing.
No.
So, there was a comment about the mezzanine level. If it was removed, that you would lose parking. My understanding of the height issue is not to remove the mezzanine level particularly. If you're removing anything, it's a story, not necessarily the mezzanine level, but I'm so sorry. What else other than parking occupies that?
Just parking.
It's just parking. And when somebody had a slide that said there was going to be 360 parking spaces, is there some percentage of that that's for retail?
Yes.
Or?
It's on the spot.
60 spots.
Right here. Okay, so total of 360 spaces. I didn't put out the number of spaces, but Actually, can you guys answer that one?
About
I
30.
don't know. Okay.
I'm 30.
Who's gonna answer? I'm sorry.
It's about 30.
For
So-
retail.
30.
Retail I would subtract that from the 360.
That's 30 on
Thirty.
on the document, it says 34.
Yep.
309 standard spaces, 51 compact spaces, and a ratio of 14.17%. Overall, 326 residential spaces.
And that meets, your standards,
So
that meets
they-
the Langston.
So the residential parking ratio that they would have to comply with would be 1.125 spaces per unit. So they would need a modification to bring it down to 1.05 spaces per unit for residential. For retail, they are under the zoning maximum or minimum, excuse me.
Under meaning they need more.
They need one per 250 square feet and they're one per 243 square feet. So
Okay.
they're meeting it.
So they have more parking.
Right.
Than what's required. It's like the reverse.
I think you do you in a second. Bob, you were first and then.
I have a couple questions about the trees on the podium and tree canopy coverage in general. I'll try to combine it all. You have to come back to me. In calculating 35% tree canopy coverage, what is the breakdown of trees on the ground versus tree canopy on the ground versus tree canopy on the podium? Part two is what sort of stuff is done and from a design perspective to make sure the trees on the podium survive and get big? And third, could you just clarify why aren't the Chesapeake Bay ordinance requirements coming into play when you're calculating canopy coverage?
I'm going to take the last of your question and then I'm going to turn the other two over to the applicant to address their proposal. The last one, we are looking at the Chesapeake Bay ordinance. I just wanted to mention that the plan standard is a separate target from the Chesapeake. So they are going to have to meet the Chesapeake Bay ordinance requirement.
Does that mean that the ordinance, check it?
Yeah.
Might throw the plan out the window because if they won't comply anywhere close?
No, they're going to meet it. They've done that analysis as part of their plan. I believe they are meeting.
Is there a percentage in the Chesapeake Bay ordinance?
For this site, I think it's 10%.
Plan is much more strict with 35.
Then did he answer his first two questions?
Yeah, can you guys?
As far as the breakdown, I believe we're about 50-50, a little bit more on the ground plane as far as tree canopy goes. But as far as survivability, the Chesapeake ordinance outlines very strict. The soil volume requirements is the biggest thing. So we're following that as well. As far
On
as
the podium?
yes, that was not an easy task, but definitely we are working on keeping that number. I don't remember it off the top of my head how many trees exactly, but we are meeting everything.
Because one of my comments is going to be meet the county A300 standards for planting trees along the street. Is that the same standards you're going to meet on the podium?
I have to go back and reference.
That's the county policy, is when you plant trees, you follow those standards. That's kind of their BMP.
We're
for tree
following
planting.
the Chesapeake ordinance for all of the street trees and on the podium as well.
Thank you. I understand that transportation issues are going to be dealt with at the next meeting, but some of the parking things came up here, so I just want to clarify in middle. So the 30 some odd retail spaces, they're all in the parking garage, the street parking, like parallel parking associated with this, right?
We have a play-by for pickup and drop off.
Okay, yes. And that is on Kirkwood or is it on?
Kirkwood.
Okay, and the entrance to the parking garage and egress from the parking garage is also on Kirkwood, correct? Okay, and so the other questions I have will be for the next meeting. Thank you.
I just have a clarification from the mezzanine level comment. If we can pull up the floor plan again, I thought the mezzanine level had parking as well as the second story portion of retail in front, so it's not just.
But that's not actually part of the mezzanine level because that's open to below.
Sure, but geographically speaking, when we're thinking of it, still.
But it's not GFA is what I'm saying. It's like air.
Okay.
I'm sorry, so so the
Jeff,
retail below it is a two.
For a portion, you can see outlined in the pink right here. So this is the retail. And then for this portion, it's got a double site height ceiling.
So it's not just a parking floor. If you're like slicing it like a pie or a cake, even though it doesn't count GFA, it's still due for consideration.
Jackie.
Yes. What is the percentage of permeable and impermeable space on the park/plaza?
We were about 50/50. I can get that number for you though. Since we have the park basically
I
split.
guess the follow-up is, did you explore using permeable coverage for the plaza space to make it all?
We have the ability to do that. There are a ton of permeable paving options that we can look into. We haven't specified yet specifically what that will be, but we have the option to do that.
Better to specify.
Three quick, hopefully, questions. One, on the west side, that new, like sidewalk alley, it didn't look like there was lighting there. Would there be lighting? Because I think it looks beautiful, but also it looks a bit scary at night to walk down that.
Absolutely. Definitely lighting.
Okay, lots of lighting. Then the second question was just about the step back. I know you're not meeting the step back. I kind of wanted to understand better the rationale for it, since we do have a very recent area plan that calls for it. The guidelines were for sunlight. Okay, I see that maybe isn't as much of an issue, but it was also for biophilia and outdoor space for people. So I just want to understand more about why you're not doing the step back or the recommended.
I can start on that. The step back was a controversial issue while the plan was being reviewed. And part of the reason is actually illustrated on this site. We have a pretty skinny building. So when you step back 10 feet, the tower, you're affecting all of your corridors, all of your units, and the building would have to change. We'd have to move the density in a different direction.
Can you speak up?
Closer to the Lion Village community. And it would just change it would really, the design as you see it wouldn't work. And I'm certainly not a structural or engineer or an architect, and Steve or someone else can step in here, but that's the primary reason that we're not doing it, because we're pushing all of our density to the edge of the site purpose, so that it's along 66. And it's a pretty narrow tower. And that's why we're not stepping back any further. We really can't. If I missed anything, let me know.
Okay, and then my third question was, I'm just interested in the location of your lobby around on Langston Boulevard and how you think that will impact pickup, drop off, deliveries. It's, a pretty busy area in the mornings and in the evenings. There's an on-ramp and an off-ramp right there. So I could see there being traffic issues and backing up. So why not have the main lobby entrance and where people, when they put it in their GPS, where it's going to take them, be on Kirkwood?
So this is a topic that's very much in conversation right now and in flux, for lack of a better way of saying that. As Steve pointed out, the way the building is oriented, where the elevators are located, that's where a heavy component of our internal amenities and our internal space will be. The leasing office, for instance, it's going to be really important that that's in that corner, in that corridor of the building. We do have what is now being referred to as the secondary lobby that I'm more than happy to start referring to as primary lobby. And I don't say that tongue in cheek. I say that in an intentional way of reorienting the site. I think something I've spoken about previously, but worth reiterating here, is we're looking into readdressing the site. So we come off of Kirkwood. Our address is Kirkwood, not Langston. The Langston address is definitely, there's something nice about that, but it's not a necessity for us. The other thing we're looking into, and actually what I've had colleagues have had success before in the past, is actually training the SEOs and the Google Analytics so that when you put in the address, even if we had to keep it Langston for some reason, it knows to go to the drop-off location. So akin to like how it happens at National and other places, that high traffic areas, the wharf, for instance, you go to the dot and the dot, the car goes to the dot as well. That kind of thing is actually pretty, I won't say easy these days, because I'm not gonna, you know, it's so easy for someone to do, and I'm happy to pay that someone to do it. So that helps.
Two last questions for this, and then we're gonna move into discussion just because we've got a lot to cover here. Tony.
Okay, so what's the deal with the pawn shop?
Get your popcorn. No, it's as simple as we tried to buy it. The pawn shop was not the original owner. The pawn shop was just a tenant. In the pawn shop's lease, they had a right of first refusal if the owner were to ever want to sell. So when they got our offer, they were legally required to go to the tenant and say, hey, we're doing this. And I don't think they thought that the pawn shop was going to execute on that, but under 30 days and $1 above our offer, they closed. Yeah. So, and then after that, it's just, you know, all right, well, we'll pack up our stuff and go.
So there's like no hope of getting the pawn shop included in this.
I am a developer, so I am always on the like I'm a positive, optimistic, glass half full kind of gal.
Yeah.
So I'll never say never. But for the function of this meeting, for the function of the planning of the building today, it's not fair to the building as it stands today.
Sure.
Two quick questions. Matt, I know I've raised this in the past, and I don't know if about the changing of the address to Kirkwood.
I had forgotten that you would ask me that, but we can certainly go back and ask the fire marshal that. I don't know, Bryce, do you happen to know?
I think it's partially at least dependent on where the fire command center would be. So if that gets reoriented to be on the Kirkwood side, they'd probably be supportive.
Yeah.
Saying that with the caveat, I'm not speaking for.
Yeah, you're not the fire department. Yes.
As with everything here, there's a lot of levers to be pulled and a lot of conflicting groups. So definitely something that we're.
Just to jump in here, EMS and addresses don't have to coincide. I know that from experience with SPRCs, but also working in EMS, they don't have to coincide. It's a very simple, common.
Last question.
Yeah, and then from the tenant landlord perspective, how many are committed to affordable? Are they CAFs or are they all market rate apartments?
We have a significant affordable component on site here. I'll get shoved by my land use attorney, but I think we'll probably wait till community benefit conversation to address that further.
Sounds good.
But they are on site.
Okay.
So let us move now into open discussion now, use mix and density. So if you have questions, comments, things you'd like to say, now is the time.
Is there any scenario where you could do a mock-up of what a plan compliant massing looks like, just so we could understand what the trade-offs are as a community? Not now, just.
Yeah. You mean just imagery? I guess what would be, which plan exactly?
Like
'Cause-
the Boulevard area plan.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can look at that.
Do you mean like a model, a 3D? Is that what you're contemplating?
This covers lots of different, all of these topics are related. Density, height, the layout, the design, it's hard to separate them. So main thing that I want to say on behalf of Lion Village is that we believe the proposed height and density does not support the overall Langston Boulevard area plan. And we do support the vision and we want to see the vision implemented. We don't think this does that. The reason is, as you were just discussing, is because the site is considerably smaller than was expected with the consolidation. And the consolidation would have added 25,000 square feet, or that this makes this now 75% of what they were envisioning in the consolidation, which included 12,000 square feet of what is, as you can see on the drawing, is parking. It is parking for the pawn shop. And so in losing those space, the same density is now put on a space without that additional space. And so that means that in order to maintain the density, it has to cut back parking, Udo, traffic, entrance, the entrances and exits, step backs, all of those things are in order to maintain the same density with a 75% of the site. And so we would like to see the step backs just along the leg that goes from Langston Boulevard along 66 as it goes into the neighborhood. We would like to see some step backs, a couple, go down, that bring it down closer to 8 stories. So from the 12 down to say 8, which could be 2 step backs. And yes, that would lose some density, some units. But this would allow us, I mean, our rationale is this would have the step backs that were originally there. By reducing the size, it will make space for some of these other things that are also requirements, like the park plaza we were talking about, like the Kudo, and some safety issues, and more trees. And we like the visual architecture of those setbacks, breaking up that huge block. We understand that to keep the density, you need to keep it at 12 along Langston, and we've sort of accommodated to that. But this small reduction of maybe, I don't know, I calculated as like 20, maybe 20 units. It might be more than that, but given the fact that of the 100 and some odd, and 185 base, 125 additional units are all bonus density. And that even on the original documents that we had, it said 296, not 310. It seems to us that a change of maybe 20 units to get those step backs and to reduce therefore the parking needs and to give a little more space for some of these other requirements would be absolutely worth looking at, and we would advocate for that.
Tony, did you have anything? No.
It just, the question is, with that pawn shop, is what happens to, I mean, if that's redeveloped, what are the restrictions on that site itself? And the corollary is actually, what kind of constraints deal with stormwater, which will be next time. But in terms of, that wasn't in the Langston Boulevard plan, so, what could happen there? And then actually maybe the corollary to follow up on what Jackie said is, what would this building have looked like if they would have been able to combine that with the pawn shop? Would it have been more units? Or would it just been more kind of expanded out with more setbacks than that, the same number of units?
I can answer what the plan guidance is for the pawn shop site. As far as the other question, I would look to the applicant. Really it would be the same guidance that would apply to this site, only I think the height steps down closer to the intersection of Kirkwood and Langston. I think it's down to 10 stories rather than 12.
So they could put a 10-story building there.
If you follow up, because I had the same question, I'm wondering, because that site also has gigantic stormwater pipe underneath it, that's been restrictive. So even if it says technically it could be 10 stories, is it even possible to build 10 stories there, given that they can't go down where the pipe is or build over that pipe? And that constrains the site even further. So it almost makes the pawn shop site undevelopable.
It's, can't address hypothetical, but potentially.
That's what I heard.
don't know if this is a discussion question or just a question. Um, Several times it's mentioned that the main entrance or a entrance has to be at that location because you need the elevator shaft there. For safety, this perspective of mine comes from working facilities at schools. They have two separate elevator banks for, so do you have two or it's, okay. So is the second elevator bank at that new entrance that you're, in other words, why so much focus on we have to leave the entrance there because of the elevators?
It's not the entrance because of the elevators. It was the core of the building being there, the way that the building angles as well. It's where we have focused our internal and back of house aspects to the project. So it's not the retail is off tore up Langston. This is where we focus just the centric nature of our product. And I was saying all of that really to say it's there.
Okay, but anyway, but you also answered that there is another elevator bank. Did we ever see where that is? Is there a place where that is?
Jones questions.
Yeah, it's right here. It's really
There,
tiny.
yeah. It's just behind
Okay,
the
but
secretary.
it's, oh, so that only goes up to the mezzanine level?
No,
It's there.
No.
I think it goes all the way to the top.
Okay, well, like I say, you got that.
It's really tiny, but there's an elevator.
Yeah, it's not like a elevator bank, but there's one more elevator. There's 3 elevators.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
No, it was kind of a safety concern about having, not just having one elevator bank, and
Oh.
you do have two. Yeah.
We do. It's just like, yeah.
Get your question.
Well, the second part was just, what would this building look like if you could have combined it with the pawn shop? Would it been more units? Would it been more step backs? You know,
Same affair.
That I'm gonna steal his line. I can't answer hypothetical. I say that tongue in cheek. I don't know the answer to that question. You know, I really don't. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I've got a question about the retail space. Can you tell us how many retail units this is going to accommodate and the size of them? The reason I'm asking is that I know you don't know who the retail tenants will be yet, but it may be helpful for us to have an idea of what types of retail may be in there based on the numbers and spaces. I ask that because I think that will inform later discussions concerning traffic and parking and whatnot, if we knew what kind of retail conceivably could go in there.
Sure. It is hard to tell who will be in there, and therefore it's hard to tell how many spaces. Right now on the plan, we have it kind of demarcated as 3 spaces. When talking to retail brokers and making sure that we're preparing for the future, we got to the 34 parking spaces because we were intending maybe 1 restaurant, kind of a community focused restaurant, 1 dry goods area, and 1 service oriented. We were like, so if we could hit each of those 3, what would the parking needs be? Coming from both like a morning use and evening use and afternoon use. And that's how we got to the 34 parking stalls as well. So we were just kind of like trying to think in the future and then work backwards. But it's hard to tell, you know, we'd love for it to be a huge restaurant and.
Well, because if it's a grocery store or a big restaurant as opposed to a small dry cleaner, that impacts in different ways. And that's why it would be helpful to have
Or
some.
childcare.
Sure.
Childcare.
And you have 14 other things that we can think about. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, hard to tell at this time. But we've been conscious about the marketability with parking in particular. So it came from a good place.
So I thought your landscaping and the biophilia around your building is really beautiful. And also I was wondering, like how enforceable is it from a site plan condition? We've had developers who will show us like big, beautiful trees on the top of the building. And then we're like, that's actually not possible to put there. And so, you know, when you like, we have the tree plantings plan at this point? And how do we make sure that we get those pictures that look so beautiful? Because I think it really would be a gem to have all of that.
Good. Thank you. So the short answer, Tinley, is that trees that are shown on the conceptual landscape plan have to be shown on the final landscape plan. There is some flexibility in terms of tree location, but major statistics like the number of trees, and especially public trees, and like whether they're canopy trees, the type, they're shown on the conceptual landscape plan. That's got to be part of the final landscape plan.
What's also something that I find interesting, or like that I recently learned, was that the plans, the renderings and the plans show trees we're required to show the trees as full grown and what they would look like full grown. But when they get planted,
It's 20.
they often are not. And so what I actually had that, I held up, I was like, guys, are we being honest here? But we are, but because the plan actually requires us to show them as full grown trees, but what gets planted isn't always that. And so I do think that there is that discrepancy that sometimes people are like, wait, where's my 20-year oak tree? And it's like, it's a baby and it's going to grow there eventually. And, it's something nice about that too, is just like, we're building for the future. We're building for the long term. So.
Yeah. So I think the park is placed where it is largely because the area plan said it should be there. What would have to be true for it to be attractive to move it somewhere else that's a little less hidden?
I don't know. I think I'm going to answer that with the same way I think I want to answer like the setback comment too. It's just like, there are a lot of constraints to this site. And we're doing our best to prioritize the right ones or the best ones. And that's why like community engagement, being here tonight is important and helpful, because it kind of ranks what's the tension. And so, I mean, it's a tight site and we're trying to do a lot with it. So I don't know how to answer that question, because I think everything would have to change in theory. And the same thing with the setback, and like you're asking for like the massing of what the plan is. It's like, well, sure, I can show you, we can have an entirely different conversation. I can show you something entirely different. Like, that's fine. It's just not the conversation that we're having, right? Like, I guess, that's it.
I'm gonna pick up on Chenley's comment about the lighting. I think that's very important. The next time we have a meeting, can you diagram or, what the lighting is? And I would think for the community, across the street on Kirkwood, from the third floor, that could be a lot of, I think it would be really helpful if you had more to share on that.
Sure.
Are we doing landscaping?
We've kind of morphed into the whole ball of wax topics. So yes.
I can go?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Parks and Recreation, so I'm starting with recreation. Is there any gym, tennis court, football court?
There's a gym.
There is a
It's
gym.
for the residents.
But yeah.
Okay,
That's
absolutely. Fitness center is
because we have more people coming.
very important.
Okay, just another kind of off the wall comment you may think, but in your picture of the little plaza, you had some kids there. And I'm worried about the kids and that parking garage situation, and hoping that there's some solution where you can have like a tot lot if you're expecting children. I think that's kind of an area where there's a lot of traffic.
I think that's the intent of the park, on the edge, away
Okay.
from that furthest most.
And is there a pedestrian entrance there? I see the pedestrian entrance is right next to the parking garage entrance.
You're talking
Is there
about the
one
main-
right here? Does that mean?
To the park?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you're a family with a stroller, can you get from
Yeah,
the sidewalk without going near the parking?
yes, you
Okay.
can get through it along Kirkwood, and there's another path.
That kind of a
Yeah.
back.
But I think that was part of the connectivity question, though.
Can I just do my whole list now?
Okay.
Okay. I really am very interested in the trees that are between your property and VDOT. They are
full of invasive plants and VDOT needs to take care of them. But you guys could do a lot to influence VDOT to do that. And we really encourage you to do that. It would really make that little pathway that now is kind of cramped, feel much more open. You might even be able to influence them to put an attractive fence, or you guys could do an attractive fence, something, because it's a big problem in our whole county about the invasive plants. Let me see. I want to echo the staff's comment about the entrance on the little plaza, that it should be, you know, a lot more integrated. And echo the comment about there being as much permeable treatment as possible. Let's see. I think I'm getting through all the maintenance plan, especially for, we really want you to have a plan so that, you know, that's part of the site. And okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Before I call the next one, if there's anyone online or here in the room that, if you're here in the room, you still want to do a comment, please sign. If you are online, please put it in the chat so that we know. So.
Just a clarifying question of where the mailroom will be located, since the loading dock is on one side, but there's doesn't seem to be a thoroughfare or corridor to connect the two lobbies together.
There's not. That is through the parking garage. That is something we don't love right now, and we're trying to figure that out internally.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah,
it's a great comment.
A couple of things. First off, the facade, Kirkwood. I would be a bit better, or I'd like to see something a bit more. Right now, it's garage light. You've already started moving that direction by breaking it up with different materials, which is great. But I can't really even just ideas unless you can make it a bit more biophilic. We've had a couple of regional SPRCs where we've done some really interesting. We're getting some interesting screening for parking garages that are biophilic. If you could do something like that, that would help that. Right now, it's still a little too garage-ish. And in the county overall, we really don't like to have garages facing a public, a main street. So flag that if there's something can be done there. I'm very happy to hear that you're looking to have address change to Kirkwood. I think that'd be great. What I'd really like to see is, and I understand why you need the two lobbies. I have no concern about that. But if the Langston lobby could be the tenant lobby and the public lobby is the Kirkwood one, where the pickup drop off is, where guests come, where, you know, essentially, yeah, essentially the Langston be just a key card for the tenants to come in and out. I was in a building like that in Philadelphia. There were two lobbies, total different ends of the building. And one was totally for the tenants. You needed a key card to use it. The other one was where the packages got dropped off and the lifts and the Ubers dropped off. And, you know, everything was right there at that second lobby. In fact, and it was right next to the loading dock. And it didn't bother anybody. And it was an apartment that the rents were pretty good, pretty high. So it's doable. It is doable. It doesn't harm the renting it. But anyway, so I'd like to see that emphasis. And if there's some way, yeah, you've seen the letter that could there be even a park of share rather than just the park space, because we have a lot of park. We have that green space that goes all the way along 66. Across the street is that hill, which is technically a park. It's going to be open green space forever. But you know, I'm still not fully comfortable with the two Pluto spots. They seem to be not even enough. Maybe we could get even more out of that, but that's transportation later. But the park space, I'm still not sure how it works really well for anybody, and it could be maybe better used. It's like a pull in, turn around, and move right back out. For that as an idea, that should be considered.
I know this is not the transportation thing.
Yes.
I want to, but Jim said something. I want to make a very brief comment about that, and then we can take it up at the next thing. So the corollary, the other side of the coin from what you're saying is that Kirkwood, it's one lane. There's supposed to be a bike lane there. If you have the entrance and exit to the garage and the lay-by and everything else there, it's going to. Okay, well, nevertheless, I think that is a concern, which I'll bring up at the next meeting, but I just
Right, and this is exactly the conversation we'll have to have next time, because you're right, this is going to be trade-offs all around.
I'm with the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission. As with many plans that we review, this is an improvement over what's there. So that's good. Also see it as an opportunity. I say this every time I come to a site plan meeting. This is an opportunity to actually, especially as kind of the first one out of the blocks on Langston, you kind of set the bar high. And when I think about what does that mean, that means that since you're going for maximum height and bonus density, that means not just maybe hitting green targets and canopy targets, but exceeding them as much as you can, looking for every conceivable opportunity you have to maximize shade and green cover and biophilia. I think that's in the spirit of Plan Langston Boulevard, and it's in the spirit of the county's Forestry and Natural Resources Plan, which has 40% tree canopy targets. So what does that mean when my commission talks? That means that we like shade trees. We love ornamental trees, but we kind of like shade trees better because that helps combat climate and adds to the canopy. So maximize shade trees. We like biophilia, but not necessarily hard, nice artistic designs, but actually growing biophilia and really actually landscaping on the ground. We much prefer, plantings and shrubs and things like that can help hide garages rather than just putting stuff on the walls of the garages, although we support that too. We like the idea of having sufficient space for roots and for trees to grow and survive so that we don't invest in them. And 5 years later, they're just these little sticks that we see on some properties. We want them to look like the pictures. In fact, I want them to look bigger than the ones in your pictures when they're done. And of course, we want native plantings as well, which is kind of a requirement nowadays. So specifics that my commission would like to see in your plan, and I acknowledge that you have a lot of stuff in your plan already that's doing this. But again, pushing it as much as you can. Number one, we want you to maximize the number of shade trees, mature shade trees on Langston and Kirkwood. That means tall trees. I would suggest that provides a tremendous screen for the garage. We want you to use ANSI 300 tree planting standards. I got to go home and look up what the Chesapeake Bay tree planting standards are, but the county follows A300 guidelines, so look those up. We want you to maximize root zones. So that means that on Langston, you've got now a bike path and a sidewalk. I'm not sure where those bikers are going because they're not going to be biking by the pawn shop. So maybe have one larger walking space and have a broader spot for planting trees, up to 8 foot. 8 foot is the max that we'd like to see in Arlington. We applaud you for going for 6. See how you can get to 8. On Kirkwood, I would suggest not having drop-offs. I look at developments in Falls Church. They don't have drop-off zones along streets. They have a big parking garage, as you're going to have. So that would give you more space to have more plantings, more of a tree zone along Kirkwood. We would suggest that the strip of trees that exist now that are just over the line on the pawn shop site, look for ways to maybe try to preserve those because they're big and they're good and they're healthy right now. I know that's challenging when you're digging a big hole, but maybe there's ways you could save them and to even if it's not on your property, it may be the right thing to do. I would suggest that on the northwest walkway, the one connecting Langston to the plaza, terrific idea. Kudos for that. I would suggest look to plant big shade trees there, not the little ornamentals that you got. And I think that'll actually help with the lighting and the access to the doors too, because they'll go up. And finally, for the public plaza, with respect to some other commissioners, may have a slightly different view here from the point of view of my commission. I think we need to be careful not to have that plaza try to address every single conceivable need that a resident of Arlington County might have. And I think that's the danger those of us in Arlington face when we make comments on things. I would suggest that because you've got the big upstairs plaza for the residents, I'm kind of wondering who's going to use the little park down there. They're going to go up to where the cornholes are and the pool is and the grilling spaces. That's where the kids and the tot areas are going to be. And all the residential houses nearby already have yards. So I would suggest that maybe we look at that plaza as maximizing the natural space, saving some of the trees that are there, making it more of a green kind of little mini arboretum almost, instead of 50% permeable and 50% impermeable. I don't think you're losing much in terms of recreation there. There's not much that can fit there anyway. And I think you contribute to the overall canopy coverage and green design of your project. So that's it.
Did you get your hand up?
I did. Just my full name, Margaret. Free blowout from Dry Bar 2 days ago because my name is Margaret. Can I take 15 seconds at the end to preface my transportation questions? I find if I'm able to do that now, then applicants can come more prepared next time around. Just 15 seconds.
You can always write to
Yeah,
us.
Sure, absolutely.
You can do that.
Yep, sure. I've been holding every other.
Joan, thank you.
Yeah, just actually follows on a lot of on Bob is again, I don't see that plaza that there's a really defined use for that. So think of it more of as a forest type environment and do not a lot of the hardscape and as much as possible use permeable surfaces. Also maybe try to update some of those pictures because those landscaping photos look pretty generic and at least from my eye, most of them don't look like they're native plants. And probably be more specific on the mezzanine level because I'm pretty sure you can't plant an oak tree up there. So it's going to probably have to be, understory trees and things like that. So just, not setting the expectations and whatever the kind of pre-canopy coverage you get from that is. That in the lead scorecard, it noted, reduction in the urban island. It would be helpful to get a little bit more of a sense of what that actually translates into between the tree canopy coverage and the material uses that you're using. And then finally, just dig a bit more on the building design itself in terms of what materials are you using? But first, how are you taking advantage of the position of the sun and the direction in order to kind of maximize the solar as well as, kind of ways of reducing excess heat during, late afternoon on the western side. But also what materials are you selecting that can be low carbon cement, steel, other materials that actually might be, at least lowering embodied carbon, if not in some cases, you can get material that counts as negative investment. Again, is really kind of thinking and if you can do a life cycle assessment of the carbon assessment and kind of drill into that in more detail in terms of how you can maximize or at least minimize the carbon impact of just the building itself.
I have two questions. My turn. Where's the pet relief area?
We don't have a designated pet relief area. We removed the dog run. The pet relief area is Arlington.
Wherever they want to go.
I'm sorry, those
That's why I was
neighborhood, I don't know.
Okay, so the even more maintenance for areas where, the tree looks like it's in too much of a pet relief area. Another question just, and I think it goes to architecture maybe, is will there be any soundproofing or anything? Or are you using any sort of sound minimizing things especially along the 66 area?
Our building materials will be the glass, the insulation, all that along 66 will be a higher rating.
Yeah. First, I just want to add to what you just said, the soundproofing. The other thing that we mentioned at the meeting past was downlighting that does not go directly out, particularly with those elevations that you showed, like that one. Downlighting that's not going to make backyards of all of those houses daylight all night.
You don't want a spotlight, Jackie? I can get you a spotlight.
But the main thing I wanted to do was, I talked about density and height before, and I wanted to basically just support everything that Bob and Joan said with respect to the park, that I prefer to call a park area rather than a park plaza area. I agree, it's not big enough for the kind of plaza that people are talking about events in, but it is big enough to have a lot more shade, particularly if you're expecting people to be walking back and forth to the metro. You know, a place to be able to sit down in the shade is going to be really important. And so if that was all permanent and focused on shade trees, I think it would be a very inviting spot. And yes, you would have to walk a half a block down to Langston to get there, but it would be absolutely worth it. And with respect to the suggestion, Jim, with respect that it be substituted for Pudo, that's why I said density is an issue, because I think both are essential. I think if you can't fit Pudo in a park in a safe way, it's too big. And so then you have to look at, okay, how do we get both safe entrance and access? Maybe think of that as being, well, we're not, if we accept not getting an additional loading dock, which is another exception requesting, maybe you're thinking, well, instead of a loading dock, you have a way to get in and out. That's you know, that serves as Pudo. It's a way to get in and out rather than taking green space. So I'm just going to suggest, I agree with you on Pudo, and the drop off is important, but I think there's some other ways with things that we're saying we might approve that ought to be able to substitute for getting you more drop off and pickup space rather than eliminating trees.
Tony?
I'm gonna go rapid fire comments. So first of all, I love the caps that are on site. That's something that we as a commission really value. I think the architecture looks very sharp. I really think it's a good looking building. Height is appropriate, density is appropriate. It's a lot of commercial activity, so it makes sense to put these future customers of these commercial sites near them. I share the concern with the step back being a little narrow. I don't know what can be done there, but I encourage more creative thought on the design on how to work that in with a greater step back. Regarding the garage comments in the biophilia, there is another site plan that we did. It was 3033 Wilson that had this green on the ground level that really made the entrance of that apartment building pop. And so I think stuff like that, working in biophilic design into that garage that kind of looks a bit like a football face mask right now, could really like bring it home. I'm in agreement with the shade trees, the permeable surfaces in the park area. Not going to go into that because plenty of already have. The trail, the sidewalk, I think the 5 feet might be a little too narrow, especially with the way the plants look so lush. It just looks like it's coming onto the sidewalk right now. And so it's a tight space. I recognize that, but the 5 feet feels a little narrow. And then we always recommend bird-friendly glass, especially on a building of this height. And then with the mezzanine, it's some funky mats are not counted, but I'll let it slide. But those are my comments. I think this is
Last questions, yeah, and then we're going to go to public comment.
With all the comments about you might want to rethink that small plaza area and the comment about where the pet's going to go, I just have to ask, there are some buildings where there are no pets, no pet policy. Too early to ask that, or I know if you have support animals, you've got to allow them, but maybe in this new rethought of the plaza, now you could fit maybe a place because for pets where you would like, if you're going to allow pets, that they could go as opposed to not Jackie's yard. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to put some.
You're gonna get a spotlight. We're gonna make sure we check on everybody.
My house doesn't even show because it has so many trees around it. It's there. You don't see
Okay,
it.
so very last, and then we're
And
going to
it's closing remark, which is just that many of the people in this room worked really long and really hard on Langston Boulevard. We're really excited to have these early projects, to see all of that hard work really be implemented to redevelop and revitalize Langston Boulevard. So we're excited that you're here. We're excited to be working on this project. It is one of the first projects, so we do want to make sure we're looking at that plan and upholding the plan and honoring the plan and making sure we don't like already start lowering our standards like right out the gate. But we're happy to have you here. We're excited for the work you're doing.
Thank you. So public comment, should we start for the folks that are in the room? And
We have 4 folks that are signed up. Last call, if you were online and you can hear us and you would like to speak in public comment, please type your name into the chat. But would you like to set a timer or just?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
You got 2 minutes.
How many do we have?
How many? 4 here.
You know what? I can pull up the timer here so that
Okay.
everyone can see it. That would work.
All right, so the first one is Steve.
Yeah.
And so hold on, let's get the timer up first and then.
You're gonna.
There we go.
Using this time and get extra time.
Thank you for your patience.
2 minutes.
Can you stop watching?
Maybe stopwatch is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go, Ms. Campbell.
Okay, so I don't have comments, I have questions.
Yes.
And my question is about parking. Is there the idea that you all are gonna request to reduce the number of parking? Is that part of your plan coming forward? There's not, is that, did someone answer that question?
Yes, I think there are aspects of it that we're going to be reducing.
Okay, and what are those aspects? And is there going to be parking, 1 spot for each unit? And plus some, for the businesses,
There's more than 1 spot per unit now, and
plus the businesses, the 34 or whatever
Correct.
that you have for the.
correct, I don't think we anticipate it dropping below
No.
that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I think we were talking about this earlier. We don't have we had a reduction or an ask with the compact spaces. Don't have anymore. So I think we are meeting all the parking requirements. I actually think we're above the minimum.
Okay.
Sorry, it took me a second to think through that.
Thank you. Claire Jacobson.
Hi, I'm Claire Jacobson. I live on Line Village. I'm the unfortunate resident who has a house backing on Kirkwood. So I view myself as somewhat unfortunate because this is too big a development. It's too dense. The height is unbelievable. I cannot support the height. I know I'm probably the only one in this room who will say that, even though I'm not opposed to the project. I understand that there will be CAF units, within the project. I think your presentation is totally misleading in terms of shrubs. You're not going to see these shrubs for another 10 to 15 years, that height, that maturity. You're going to be planting what, 3-gallon, 5-gallon, 10-gallon pots or whatever. So this is totally misleading in terms of what you're going to have in terms of height and shrubs and trees. You may achieve that in 15 years, maybe. And again, I am opposed to the density and the building height. Thank you. I didn't even have to use my 2 minutes.
Adrienne.
Hi, how are you? My name's Adriana. I'm an architectural designer. Grew up in Arlington. Great job in the presentation. I actually think that out of all the spaces, and I actually think that the placement of the second plaza is perfect because it's sort of an extension of the trees and it sort of adds to that. Residents are really gonna love it. The only thing that I keep hearing, however, is if you've ever explored maybe vertical vegetation, whether it's in the entry lobby, it's a great opportunity to add not just screening where the garage is, but all the way up to the top. Maybe that would make that help. And or along Langston, so that since it's tall, you're breaking the site to the trees. So if you're open to exploring vertical vegetation, it would be amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer.
Hi. I'm going to decline. My comments were covered by Jackie and some others at possible.
Thank you so much. And do we have anyone online?
Nobody has signed up online. Last call or forever hold your peace. Sure.
Did you want to say something?
Hi.
Somebody's online. Who's that?
Hi, this is Tim Houston. Matt, I did sign up online.
Tim, I'm so sorry. I forgot to put you on the list. Go ahead.
Sorry, Tim, go.
No problem. I'm one of the representatives. Here, let me turn on the camera. Or it's on. I'm one of the representatives from the Maywood Civic Association, but since we have Mark Koblenz at the table, I'm commenting during the public comment window. These comments certainly do not reflect everyone in Maywood, but incorporate input from neighbors and reflect my own perspectives. Regarding heights and step backs, in our 2 meetings of the 4 civic associations, there were wide differences of opinion among members of the neighboring civic associations. Some neighbors support additional housing, and some neighbors opposed building height and the full complement of units and residents. We think the current design is appropriate for this location. This intersection is currently straddled by 2 struggling, ugly strip malls and an ugly pawn shop. The Lion Village Shopping Center's anchor tenant grocery store has been vacant for over a year. Allowing new residents on this site would add customers to invigorate retail up and down Langston. Cutting the number of units at the site would undermine this stimulus. Specifically on heights, Arlington has to meet its need for new housing somewhere, and this is a very good location for a building of the proposed height. The 2 legs of the building face onto I-66 and Langston Boulevard. The 3rd short side of the building faces Kirkwood Street, which is far below the closest homes, which are buffered by a hill and a forested park. The site is well served by bus lines and the nearby metro. Finally, we appreciate the county's efforts to negotiate the maximum community benefits from this development and to allow the project to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginger.
I just want to take a second and thank the applicant. Over a year, they have met with so many different communities along the corridor and with us. And we're very excited about this project. So many of you might know, we've been working on this for bringing Plan Langston Boulevard to life for over a decade. And so this is kind of a big night. And we are very excited. And there's a lot to like about this project. And I think we're probably down to the details now. So I know that there's going to be quite a bit of discussion about transportation. In the next go around, there's some delays in the detailed planning that needs to happen for transportation to make the real improvements that the community has really been looking forward to. And so there might be some frustration coming, but it's not with the applicant. It's with the sort of timing for that. So we're super excited because it's a very attractive building. There's a lot gained, and we look forward to it.
So a lot of input tonight. Thank you all very much for taking the time and making input. You can continue to make comments. You can email them to Matt. And if you want things that are posted as part of the project webpage. Our next steps, we will announce when the SPRC will be in the fall, but you'll get notice on that. And you can continue to make comments, but I think you can kind of see the way this process unfolds is this project, while we're looking at it right now, is going to look a little different at the end because of the time and the effort that we're putting in tonight. And I also want to thank everybody for being civil in your comments tonight. So I hope you have a wonderful evening and a great summer.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Okay.